All right, well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Aaron Martell. I'm the lead pastor here at New Life, and we're just thankful that you were able to come from all different walks of life to be able to celebrate and to share our appreciation for Bill and Kathy. And we did what we could to try and get the word out in as many different ways that we possibly could. And so thankful that there are just so many different chapters, and that's what I was hoping for, was that there'd be these different chapters from their life to be able to share with them and encourage them today. Really, our desire, our goal is to be able to take a moment to not only share an appreciation, but also to be able to share generosity back to Bill and Kathy because of the way that they have generously poured out their lives and have impacted in so many different facets. And this is just a microcosm of what that is and what that looks like. And so thank you for coming and being here. I also want to say thank you to a handful of people that have helped make this happen. Thank you to BJ as well as Vicky and Sarah for helping kind of plan this and spearhead this. And those who are serving today, really appreciate. We have some folks watching kids and as well as doing refreshments. And just thank you so much for helping to make this a possibility. So with that in mind, would you just join me in a moment of prayer? Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you. We want to thank you for your grace, for your love, for your kindness. And Lord, we thank you of how you poured that out in Bill and Kathy's life and that they were a conduit of that love and grace and kindness to so many people in so many different ways. And so, Lord, as you know, our desire is for this to be a celebration of not only what you've planted in their life, but how you've planted that in so many other people's lives. And so we thank you for that. We praise you, and we look forward to what this afternoon is going to look like. In Jesus' name, amen. One of the things that we wanted to do to enjoy kind of the whole aspect of it is to be able to have some laughs, which is our hope. How can you not with Bill around, and any one of the Bill stories that we could all come up with. But even to the fact that we understand that there's going to be a variety of emotion with it. And so one of the things that we want to help with that is if you look at your program card, on the back of it is trivia questions, or going to be spaces for you to answer some trivia. And we're going to have some trivia built in throughout the afternoon, and we are going to give away some prizes within that. It's going to be the honor system of if you've answered the most correct. Just remember, you are in the house of God. So if you are so desperate that you have to cheat to win a prize, I will just give you a prize, okay, if you're that desperate. Josh, Andy, we'll just give you a prize. Gift certificate to Culver's. Oh, we'll see. All right, so first question. Here we go. You're going to get 3 of them. First question, I'm going to give you here we go. How old was Kathy when she was pulled over by the police riding a motorcycle barefoot? Was she A, 22, B, 38, C, 14, or D, 51? So take a moment. A, B, C, D, how old do you think she was? All right. You got your answers down? All right, the correct answer is actually C, 14 years old. No license, riding barefoot. You thought it was Wild Bill. It was actually Wild Kathy kind of pushing it. All right, so let's go to question number 2. How many family members did Bill almost kill during one of their boating adventures? This might be too obvious, but there's 4, 6, or 9. I guess the family's still scarred. For those of you who obviously know Bill, it was the entire family. Last summer, would you take the pontoon up on the riverbank, or would you guys end up?
No, I can explain it in probably clearer terms than what you have.
I think the details are a little sketchy. Josh, you got it?
He has his boat that was his dream, and when he took all the family out to go on a boating trip, the throttle lever on the motor broke when he was climbing in the boat. And I mentioned to him, like, you think the throttle stuck right over on this one now? I don't think so. So I went and Ryan are behind the boat and kayak. Me and my wife were on this raft. All my kids, you're in there. And then he put it in drive, and all you watch is Bill Davis trying to muscle. 45 work. 45 work. As I'm yelling to pull a kill switch on the thing, and as soon as the kill switch pulled, we watched both my boys bail out of it. And everybody laughed for a bit, and the best was the guy fishing with his kid on the pier.
There you go. There. Sketchy, but I think it's probably more true than what you would have told us, Bill. So, all right, trivia. Last trivia for this section. How old were Bill and Kathy when they first felt led to be involved with church planting? Were they 30, 31, 48, 49, 18, 19, or 24, 25? How old were they when they were led to be involved in church planting?
Sounds like a lot of cheating going on.
Andy, they're speaking your language. Come on. All right. Here we go. They first were led at 24, 25. 24, 25. So early on, God had already planted the seed for church planting. One of the things that we wanted to be able to do is, as that question leads us into, is being able to share a variety of different stories from a variety of different chapters of their lives. And one of that first chapter, it was all the way back when they were 24, 25, maybe even a little younger. Actually, I think we have a picture for that. You can see the engagement picture on the left with Bill and Kathy. Whoops, that's my bad. Sorry, Butch. As well as Paul and Darla Johnson, who first planted Shawano Community Church, that is now called Hope Community Church. And that was when they were first kind of began to see that heart for church planting. And so what we wanted to be able to do is Paul and Darla, who are pastors over in the Twin Cities, couldn't make it today, but he's got like a Sunday job as well, I suppose. But they did want to be able to send this message. So here's a short video from Paul and Darla Johnson.
Hi, my name's Paul Johnson. This is my wife, Darla. I'm the pastor of Woodridge Church in suburban Minneapolis. We had the privilege of being connected with Bill and Kathy McCaskill in 2 different church plants and watched their ministry as it unfolded. And we want to share with you some thoughts about them and about our love for them.
And we put together an acrostic. For Bill, B, I picked bold faith in the Lord and a desire to follow the Lord.
And for I picked investor. Bill, you develop leaders and you develop churches. Every person is benefited by being with you and drawn closer to God.
And for L, I picked likable. You are one of the most enjoyable personalities, Bill, and you have a very clever wit.
And I picked for the second L, loving, not surprising. Your love for God stands out, but your love for Kathy, for your children, for other Christ followers. And then to me, I just love the fact that you love people that haven't yet put their faith in Jesus, and that you have a desire for them to come to know him. You have a love that gets put into action.
And for Kathy, the first letter K, I picked kind. You have a friendly and generous nature, and your attitude is always kind. You're kind with your smile, your listening ear, and the words you speak, and most of all, the simple acts of kindness that you do serving others.
Kathy, for the second letter, the A, I picked available. You've made yourself available to serve God no matter what he has called you to do or face. One of the greatest character qualities is a person who's available to God, and because of that, available to others. When you are available, it means you prioritize people over things, and it's a true sign of deep love.
For T, you are thoughtful. You demonstrate love to people. You are so thoughtful. You think deeply about other people's needs and concerns. You think deeply about God and the Bible. When you speak, your words carry the weight of being carefully selected. That's always been true in Bible studies with you.
And for the H, I picked a word the word helpful. And to me, helpful people are the people that make things happen and help move things forward, that make a difference. You've always been willing to serve and assist other people, and I want you to know that that's made a huge difference in all the ministry that you've been able to be part of.
And for Y, the word we chose was yearn. You long for what is best for people. You care deeply, and you yearn for people to know and follow God.
I want to then tell just one Bill and Kathy story. I remember as the pastor of what was called Community Church in Shawano, now Hope Community Church, watching the Sunday that Bill and Kathy walked in for the first time. And it was one of those times where you looked and their smiles, their attentiveness in the service, it just struck me. I thought, they are the perfect couple to build a church around. And I bet they're leaders. I bet they're going to make a difference. And when we got to know them and spent time with you in your house in Bondwell, it was just such a great joy. And then when God led us to start what would be our second church and to move to what would be Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, I remember at a small group training for small group leaders one early morning, I was going to tell you about it. And just before I told you, you told me that there was a good chance you couldn't buy in to the practice in Bondwell, and you'd be moving, I think it was to Amory, Wisconsin, or to St. Anne. I said, where's St. Anne? It's near Fond du Lac. And then my mind just got clicking because I knew that was where God was leading us, either Oshkosh or Fond du Lac, to hopefully start a series of churches. And all around the country later with church planting, I would tell people that I would always trade one really good couple for 100 people that would just attend. And I'd say a lot about starting a church was show and tell. I could tell people from God's word about what it meant to follow them, but you needed somebody to show and demonstrate that that was true. And Bill and Kathy, that was you. You did that for the Fond du Lac Church. But then you discovered you didn't need me to do show and tell. You could do the telling and you could do the showing, and you have taken that to such a level. You started together as a couple, a church planting movement, unlike any other that I know in all the United States. Right from the start, you demonstrated the character to follow after God. But all through your life and ministry, we've had a chance to see the impact of the fruit of that character and a couple that was willing to serve God.
I know Bill and Kathy are hardworking, creative, and brave. They have started churches, carried out a successful vet practice, and raised a beautiful family. We have studied the Bible together, prayed over our families together, and helped each other. They are a special gift from God in our lives, as Paul's story told you of our co-church planting in Shawano and Fond du Lac. Bill has encouraged us with his stories, his faith, his artwork, and his study of the Bible. Kathy has fed us, shared recipes, hosted many gatherings, and included us in camping adventures and even chicken processing at their home in St. Anne. Chickens really do run with their heads cut off. But I am confident that Bill and Kathy are seasoned veterans who know how to trust God and rely on Him in all of life's journey, And we are here for you in love, Bill and Kathy, and any request. You are our pluckiest friends. You truly have great determination in any difficulty, and we love you.
All our love.
I do appreciate how he shares the story of being able to be connected in Shawano, and then how God was working in mysterious ways in two different conversations, one with Paul and one with Bill, and what does he have next to really bridge that gap to planting Fond du Lac Community Church in Fond du Lac. And I want to take a moment to be able to, coupled with that, is to be able to really see his practice. And to be able to recognize that not only was God moving in the church planting world, but he's also using that avenue with the St. Anne Clinic and what that meant to work in the veterinarian practice. And I want to be able to take a moment, one, to be able to show you a nice clip, but also to invite Tom Myers to come on up and to be able to share a little bit from his perspective what that was. So, Tom, do you want to come on up?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? BJ, did you want me to read Holly's letter now? Sure. Holly Nash was one of the first women large animal veterinarians in northeast Wisconsin. We hired her at St. Anne a few years before Bill. And this is Holly's remembrance. She lives up north now. When Bill and I worked together at the St. Anna Veterinary Clinic back in the 1980s, he and Kathy would open their home for Bible studies, and I attended regularly. One evening, I'm not sure how we got on the subject, but it seems we were talking about life verses, or verses from the Bible that stood out for each of us. As we shared, Bill said, a verse from Psalm 127 stood out for him. I will relate that verse and the two before it. Sons are a heritage from the Lord, children a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are sons born in one's youth. And then the clincher, blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. After Bill said that, he grinned widely at all of us, as you can imagine, but I don't think Kathy had the same expression on her face. As you know, Bill and Kathy were blessed, and they raised a beautiful family in an atmosphere of Christian love, faith, and trust in God. A belated congratulations to you both. Holly and Ash, DVM. So I want to thank BJ for putting this together. She's a great organizer. She's been a neighbor and a friend for a while, and it's just a good bunch. And thank you, Kathy, for allowing us to express our love for you. I know you'd prefer to be somewhere behind the scenes, cooking, cleaning, helping somebody out. And Bill, congratulations. You finally get to see me in a church on a Sunday yet. So I'm Tom Myers. I was selected by Doctors Jim Walsdorf and Vic Eggleston from the 1971 veterinary draft class to grow their practice. After being rejected by their first 7 choices, They didn't tell me that for many years. They signed this 6-foot, 2-inch, 160-pound, freckle-faced rookie with long red hair from Chicago. They were desperate. We grew from 3 to 4. We hired Holly in there. And then we hired Bill and Kathy. Back then, wives were expected to answer the phones. Landline phones, no cordless phones. So when your husband's on duty, night, weekends, you have to stay within running distance of the telephone. Bill was not our 7th choice or 8th choice. He was our first choice. I got that. Anyway, BJ asked me to mention some memories back in the 80s, back when we babysat Andrew in his swaddling clothes. And for many of you, as I look out there, I see many of you don't even know if I'm talking 1880s or 1980s, but it was the 1980s. And I'd like to give you a little background. Veterinary practices are owned by the vets. We do serve the community, but we want to build our business too. In the 70s and 80s, we were mostly, I guess you would call it an urgent care practice. We drove from farm to farm all day, treating dairy cow maladies mostly. But even then, there was a shrinking dairy farm base, fewer and fewer farmers, finding new clients, earning their repeat business was quite competitive. Getting a new farm client was a big deal. It was also an ego booster. So, make a good first impression. Show off your medical, surgical skills. Tout your services. Sell yourself. That's the backstory. One morning, Bill, the vet we recently hired, was working the far north of our territory when a new client called. So he went to Don's farm. Apparently, Don was unhappy with his veterinary service. He decided to give St. Anne a try. I wondered how it would go. Well, Bill did okay, I guess, because Don called again. Did Bill emphasize our fast response times, our pregnancy diagnosis skills, surgery techniques? I was curious, what did he say? As I remember it, and all these facts are in my mind, Don told me, he said, I was level with Bill. He said, Dr. Bill, I'll be honest with you, we're going to be out of dairying in about 2 years. Without missing a beat, Bill replied, Donnie, stick with me and I'll have you out of business in 6 months. Bill continued to attract new clients. He has it all. He has the skills and compassion, humor. In time, it became clear to me that most farmers and pet owners switched, not because of veterinary skills, but because they were not being treated respectfully. Bill and Kathy always treat us with respect, love, acceptance, and they leave us feeling better, don't they? That's why we're here today. Another memory of Kathy and Bill, they created some of the funniest Christmas party gags and roasts. He wrote rhymes and sang. She cannibalized the kids' toys and bicycles and they painted surplus World War II Army helmets, gluing, stapling, sewing, whatever it took. And they took it to a very high level, sometimes not finishing until minutes before the dinner. Bill's and my shared family history soon revealed one reason why we got along. Our fathers and our families put the funk in dysfunctional. And unlike our veterinary partners, Bill and I were first-generation professionals, deep in debt. We share a like for strong coffee, challenging books, and laughing at ourselves. One night on emergency duty, I picked up a shared surgery instrument from Bill's truck at their house. After I left, Bill remarked to Kathy, "Phew, does he smell bad? Silage, manure, whatever. Glad I keep cleaner than that." Kathy quickly corrected him. "You weren't all that different 2 nights ago when you came home at 2 a.m. after a calving and flopped into bed for a couple hours sleep, and it wasn't the first time." Kathy is Bill's straight-faced, loyal opposition, the glue that holds the family together, the ever-ready, always steady worker on his big ideas. Well, I thank you for that trip to the 80s, but I do want to come up to 2021 for just a moment. Could everybody raise their hands, please? Now, you can lower your hand if you never turned away from a disabled kid or adult who moves strangely or is in a wheelchair or a walker or a cane. My arm stays up too. Okay. It just seems polite to look away. It feels better than staring, of course. Likewise, we humans tend to be relentlessly positive. We reflexly try to make the moment upbeat. We offer well-intentioned remarks. "You look amazing. Feeling good, right? I know God picked you for this because you're so strong." I'd like to offer some other ways that might help you honor Kathy personally as she is, and honor her by how you deal with other differently abled folks. One, sometimes holding a door or an understanding smile or a squeeze of the hand is enough. That's all right. Thanks. Are you a restaurant server or a greeter? Please look at the handicapped person directly. Offer her a menu. Don't just ask Bill, what does she want? And if she pays, return the change to her, not him. Number 3, do you use a disability license tag on your car? Could you please save the spaces marked van accessible? Those are for vehicles with lifts or ramps. Kathy's new minivan has a wonderful side ramp, thanks to the generosity of the good people at Van Horns, your donations, and customizing by A&J Mobility. Remember, use those other spaces when possible. The podcast, number 4, the podcast, terrible, thanks for asking, reminds us we don't move forward from loss, we move on with it. There's no getting over losses, just living with them. And finally, number 5, remember, you don't have to fix this, just keep showing up. Even if you fall back into relentless positivity, it's okay. It's better than looking away or ignoring us. I was going to sing now, but I'm out of time and voice, so thank you for sharing this. It's been a real privilege for me to have your attention, and I can't wait for the rest of the tributes.
Thank you very much, Tom. I want to take a moment and be able to also share, as I was mentioning earlier, from the early Fond du Lac Community Church days. And I have another video in that context, so take a look.
Hey, Bill and Kathy, and all of you at New Life Community Church and all the other churches that might be there. For those of you who don't know us, we're Scott and Sally Swick, And we so wish we could be part of today's celebration.
We miss you tons, and we really would be there, but we're unfortunately out of state. We just want you to know how much we love you and appreciate you, and just are so grateful for the huge impact you've had in our lives and that of so many others as well.
I remember meeting you guys 41 years ago when we all showed up in the early days of Community Church in Fond du Lac. You guys had moved down from Shawano to help Paul and Darla Johnson start the church there, and I moved there a few months later. And at that time, we became co-workers. We were both leading Bible studies, small groups with different people who really wanted to know and follow Jesus. And those were just exciting times for us. You know, we saw so many people like the Lawrence and the Colwins and the Chartiers and the Marians and the Schaefers and so many people who came to follow Jesus during that time. You guys always demonstrated such love and compassion for people. I remember people would be always driving out to your place to come get your counsel about stuff, seek your advice, to learn about your love for them and for Jesus. And that's when we became so much more than co-workers, is that we really became closest friends at that point. It's a friendship that continues even to this day, even though we just don't get to see you as often as we would like to. We're hoping that maybe you'll come down for Irish Fest again this year, so maybe we can pick that up where we left off. But hey, one of my favorite memories, it was our early, in our early friendship, was the days that we would go on those 2-day canoe trips down the Wisconsin River with a group of friends. And you guys were were more of the experienced campers. So after we were canoeing and we set up volleyball nets and tents, you guys were the ones that took over for dinner. You had the tripod and the fire and so forth. Bill, you cooked steaks on the grill and corn on the cob, and Kathy had her potato salad and the dessert and oh my gosh, it was just fabulous. And I remember one morning we woke up and Bill had just finished working up the eggs. And we all sat down to eat, and I took a bite of the eggs, and they were like the best eggs I've ever had in my life. And I go, Bill, what did you do with these eggs? These are fabulous. You said, Scott, all I did was just eggs, milk, and salt and pepper. And I go, no. It's tell me your recipe. This is the best I've ever had. He says, look, I don't know what the big deal is. It's just eggs, and I cut it with some milk. And Kathy says, Bill, what milk did you use? And you opened up the cooler, pulled up a milk jug and said, this is the milk I used. And one of the other campers said, Bill, that's our pina colada mix. So many, many years later, after my life kind of blew up, Bill and Kathy, you guys showed yourselves to be the most faithful of friends. And you became like counselors to me and really helped. You said something, I remember you said, I'm not going to be on your back, but I will be on your side. And you have come along like the Holy Spirit alongside to help in a time of trouble. And when in a time when nobody else wanted anything to do with me, you advocated for me, and because you believed redemption is what Jesus came to do, and there was nobody excluded, even me.
And that's when I got to meet both of you. I was going to my church in Milwaukee, and Scott told me that you had invited him to start this little church of yours in Plymouth, Wisconsin, and lead worship. From the minute I walked in, I just can't tell you how amazing it was to see you go out of your way to reach out to me and love me and accept me. So thank you for that. I remember when I first came up for the first worship service at New Life, it was in the
Plymouth Youth Center.
The youth center.
Yeah.
And I had come from a very formal church with lots of liturgy and a big organ and very polished services. And then I experienced the first church service at New Life. And before that, we had to set up the folding chairs and get the coffee made and rent the speakers and get everything ready to go. And then you started preaching, Bill, in your funny, comical way with lots of jokes and really speaking in a way that everybody can understand and totally be caught up in your message. And it was so different than what I was used to and so refreshing. I started to say that I came from high church and now I was going to a low church. And as the church grew, you both encouraged me so much to get involved with children's ministry and small groups, etc. We eventually brought one of our kids to church, and as we drove in, this is after we had moved from the youth center to the high school. Yep. And we drove in, and I think Kevin was his name. He was with his long hair, and he was parking cars, and our son said, "Wow, you even have Jesus parking cars here."
And that was, really you became much more than our friends and counselors, but you became our pastors. And we just cherish those times together with you. Mm-hmm. We love how you loved us and our family, and you officiated at our wedding and that of our son, Robbie. And our wedding was just another opportunity for you, Bill, to show your talent at simplifying the scripture and enriching it. You meant to say, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, his mercies never come to an end. But what you said when you started the ceremony, you looked over at Sally, and then you looked at me, and then you said, "Scott, you're so lucky it's sick." So, anyways, we could go on and on. We want to give other people time to share. We just want you to know how much we love you. Thank you for being our coworkers, our friends, our advocates, our pastors, our fellow followers of Jesus. And we just love you more than we can express. We just pray for God's grace to continue to flow through you in the next stages of your life. And we just are happy we get to be part of it. We love you.
Love you.
Sorry, Butch. I want to keep going with the trivia. So if you want to grab your trivia out, I know that you really want to win this, Andy, so here you go. All right, question number 4. What are some ways Bill refers to Kathy? Crazy Irish woman, Holy Spirit with a skirt, best friend, or all of the above? All right, here you go. It may come as a surprise, but it is all of them. Which one's more? I just would be curious. A crazy Irish woman. Yeah, I think so too. I figured you guys would say that. All right, question number 5. What animal did Bill confuse Kathy with during a nightmare after a long day of work? A horse, a mule, a cow, or a dog? A lot of good options right there. I was going to go with the biblical version of mule, but I figured it's a family event, so we'll just kind of keep it there. All right, what do we think? Cow? Yeah, unfortunately. I don't want the details of that story. We'll save that for private conversations. Wait. No, we got...
Okay, so you're sound asleep, and you have been sound asleep for a few hours, and all of a sudden you feel this hand coming down your face, and they're petting you, and you startle awake wondering what's going on, and I said to him, "What are you doing?" He said, "You wouldn't believe me. I'll tell you in the morning."
That's awesome. I'm just glad he didn't say anything else. So, all right, question number 6. When your Christmas tree falls over with a bad tree stand, what does Kathy do? Do you carefully put it back up, single-handedly throw it out the back door fully decorated, call Bill to help put it back up? Kathy's Christmas tree goes down. What does she do? Put it back up, throw it out the back door, or call Bill. I think we see a pattern here of you single-handedly throw it out the window, or out the door, excuse me. Driving around at 14 barefoot on a motorcycle to the crazy Irish woman, hence the final question. All right. Our chapter 2 that I want to take a moment to be able to share with is around New Life Community Church. And before I invite some folks up, I just want to take a brief moment to be able to share. It really kind of echoes a little bit of what Scott Swick just shared. But I'm just so thankful for New Life and so thankful for Bill and Kathy. In the context of when I thought my world was over, when I thought my world had completely fallen apart, I got a phone call from a guy that I rarely even talked to, and that was Pastor Bill. And the extension that you made to me of just come and be, in the midst of all of trying to put the pieces back together of my life and my marriage, you just said, come and be. And the extension of your love and grace, Kathy and Bill, for Teresa and I, was absolutely amazing. And that simply just opened the door for new possibilities. And I think we would all agree, no matter where we are at within life, the conversations, the invitations, the time with, those opportunities are all things of just, what could God do next? That's what you've always invited us into, is what could God do next? And so I just want to thank you for that, and just wanted to share that as that expression of love and grace, I am definitely one of those people of what could God do next. So thank you very much. I want to invite Steve and Carla Peterson to be able to come up and share a little bit from the early days of New Life when it was low church compared to high church.
I'll let him speak first.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for the invitation to come and be a part of this. And goodness gracious, what a great turnout. Bill, Kathy, great to be a part of it. Great to see you guys again as well. My mind goes to August 4th, 2001, as kind of one of the probably the best days of my life, or certainly one of the most informative days of my life. The Coleman's son and daughter-in-law got married over in Ohio, and sorry, is that getting a call or what? Shannon and Leslie Coleman got married on that day, and there's a great contingency of folks from Fond du Lac that went over there to celebrate with them, and we were pleased to be a part of it. It was kind of a fun weekend, and the wedding itself was a great time as well. The wedding was kind of dying down and got a little bit later in the day, and I found myself sitting at a table with just Bill. Just Bill and I at a table. I don't know where you went. I think you were probably in the bars. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, my little Baptist wife wouldn't be in the bar for sure. And so Bill and I embarked on this discussion, and we had lived away for 5 years, and we're closely connected to community church. We came back, and as you would expect, things move ahead, and the church moved ahead, and I was having a hard time kind of catching up. I couldn't kind of find a place in that church to be a part of it again. And so when I was sitting talking to Bill, I mentioned that to Bill, and Bill, you unfurled your plan for putting a church over on the over in this area, and I got absolutely mesmerized by that. You must have thought, oh boy, I got this guy now, you know, and so it was really exciting for me, and I kind of I didn't sign anything, I didn't commit, but I said I think I'd like to do that, you know. And then I realized, holy mackerel, I didn't even check with my wife about this, you know. And so we eventually did sign up and embarked on a journey that was to be exciting and rewarding in so many ways. We met so many wonderful people along this journey. It's kind of fun to see old friends again today and kind of get caught up a little bit. And but it was great meeting people and making relationships and doing Bible study. We'd drive over in the morning for a church in the box. We'd unload that trailer. We'd set up. We'd have church. We'd tear it down. We'd come back later the evening for a Bible study or some kind of a get together. It was just it was hard, but it was indeed a blast. We really had a great time. A lot of people came to know the Lord during that time. Who mentioned Kevin? Somebody? Scott mentioned Kevin. It was Kevin was our hippie friend, and Carla will probably talk about his wife as well when she talks. But we so appreciate that we were able to be a part of the journey, Bill and Kathy. It really meant a great deal to us. It truly changed us in a lot of ways to be a different kind of Christian. You know, we could never emulate you in what you did, because you had a very special way of doing that. You know, who can make a sermon out of a pig's mammary system? You know, I mean. Who knew? But we certainly learned a lot, and we very much appreciate you guys and the journey that we were able to take with you. Thanks for allowing us to be a part of that.
That's all he's going to say. I have notes. I have a lot of notes. Well, like he said, you know, he hadn't checked with me, and I had gotten pretty involved at community in Fond du Lac, and but you know, I thought, okay, I'll be submissive, just like Kathy has been, you know. And once I started going to those, the meetings, what do we call them? The core group, right? Core group meetings. I saw Bill's passion and his vision, and I got really excited about it. And the one thing, there was one night in particular, I can't remember who was all there. I know Bob Guess was there, and of course Kathy and Bill, Steve and I, and there was 12 of us, and someone prayed that night and said, because we were kind of like, oh, we only got 12 people, how are we going to pull this off? And someone prayed, Jesus started with 12 people, and that was it. It was like, okay, we're on board. And then, I don't know how I got, you know, Bill talked me into doing a kids program. So Heather and I sat at their house and we brainstormed, but he had a vision already what that kid area was going to look like, and we called it Kid Quest, and I don't know how many kids came, but anyway, I came across this, which was I have a folder actually of New Life stuff, and this is a flyer that I believe we were supposed to hand out to everybody we knew, but it was Imagine a Church with great contemporary Christian worship, with live drama, with a pastor that is also a licensed veterinarian. Pet questions are always welcome, with an interactive and humorous message guaranteed not to put you to sleep, where it's okay to laugh in church, where making new friends is part of the deal, where kids have their own high-energy service designed especially for them. And then it said, now do I have your attention? At least curious? New Life Community Church is a new church in town that has been laying the groundwork for the last 6 months, and we are ready to meet you. We meet at the Riverside Middle School at the north end of North Street in Plymouth for our weekly Sunday morning celebrations. The kids meet in the gym for their high-energy hour run by terrific kid-talented volunteers, where we guarantee they will have the best hour of their whole week. We also provide a top-notch nursery for the diapered among us. So on September 21st at 9:30 a.m. and subsequent Sundays, we would be honored if you would consider it a place to visit and connect. Call Pastor Bill and phone numbers, and he will be happy to answer any question you have about the ministry. New Life Community Church is a place to believe, a place to belong, and a place to become. And I think for me, I grew in my faith, you know, in leaps and bounds. And it was about you, Bill, but doing the volunteering, Kathy, I know she always liked to be in the back, you know, working on sidelines, you know, but she knew people's gifts as soon as they walked into that church, and was preparing coffee or any way that we could get connected with each other. And she did a great job with that, and an encourager. And I will tell one story that has affected me through all these years. I think that probably, I don't know how many years now we've been away from New Life, but Kevin, with the hippie Kevin, I don't think they're here. I did invite them. But anyways, Kevin and Lori had a daughter, Julie, and she did not like Sunday school. She did not want to be away from her parents, and so somehow I ended up connecting with her, wearing her name tag every week that she'd come. Well, it ended up that Julie's mom, Lori, and I think we did a Bible study with her, and all of a sudden, years later, she's calling me all the time, and I'm coming over to Plymouth to have lunch with her, whatever. And then she ended up with a lot of health issues, and I took her to Freighter for, a long time, lots of trips over there. And I have to admit, I used to call her my hippie friend. And there was a retreat where she accepted the Lord, and the next Sunday she came running into church and she said, look, Carla, what I did. And she had a huge cross on her arm, and I'm like, oh, cool, And but her and Kevin, they loved Jesus, and it was all because of Bill's messages. They understood them. They loved that we met in a school. It wasn't traditional church, but they're just one couple, and there's so many others that were affected the same way. So anyway, thank you both, and we love you guys, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, guys. You're good. I want to invite Vicki Lawson up as well. So thank you, Matt. And these are just a snapshot of the scores of people that have been a part of kind of kicking New Life off in the early days. And just a snapshot of what has taken place over the last handful of 2 decades almost.
Two decades, yeah.
Go ahead, Vic.
I brought notes because I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't want to forget anything. To me, Kathy is proof that God is love. To understand the profound impact that Kathy and Bill have had on my life, I need to share a bit about my life at the time we met. I'm coming over there. I came to talk to you. I love you all. You're fine. You can hear me, but I'm talking to you. I need to share a little bit about my life at the time we met. You see, I was married for a second time at age 34 to a high-functioning addict, and as we all know, addiction is a progressive disease, and that high-functioning bit kind of went away. And in spite of my prayers and my crying through the Psalms every night, I was left with no choice but to leave. At the same time, Bill and Kathy were kicking off New Life. I had known them from my prior church. I was actually traded to New Life from Harbor Church. My pastor called me and said, hey, Bill's leaving, you're going with him. And I was like, what? But that's okay. When I left my husband with my high-energy toddler for the last time, Bill actually picked up the phone and called me, a divorced person whose life was in chaos, when everything was an absolute mess, and said, we want you. Not, you're welcome to come, not, hey, you could fill a seat. We want you. At my prior church, I had been involved in leadership and on the creative team. And when it came to New Life, when we were meeting in that house, the 12 of us, and praying about what was going to be, I was not just welcome. I was wanted. My talents were needed. I was allowed to write and do drama and sing and lead worship, in spite of the fact that in many Christian circles, someone who had been divorced, not once, but twice, would have been shunned. But Bill and Kathy saw it as an opportunity to grow me and to reach people who weren't doing it perfectly. At least that's my interpretation. I could be wrong. So they welcomed me in spite of my chaos, in spite of in spite of financial loss, separation, divorce, a restraining order, all of those things. And they invested in me. They invested in me as a small group leader. They invested in me as a mother, as a person, as a sister. And really, I know how different that is from so many other people's church experience when they experience divorce. But they didn't stop there. About 2 years after that, my mom got sick with cancer for the 4th time. And Bill and Kathy were there for her through it all. They visited her in the hospital when her Lutheran pastor walked in and didn't know who she was. Bill and Kathy came in and prayed with her and stayed with her. And I'm just going to say it. We prayed for a fart so she could go home. Do you remember that? Because, you know, they have to wake up before they can let her go home after surgery. They visited with her for once a week for the rest of her life, which I think was about 1.5 years after that surgery. And I know that Kathy's calm, reassuring presence and Bill's twisted humor got her through a lot of very rough days. At that time, my mom was my co-parent because my son's father was not available to me. And when she passed away, Kathy organized a group of ladies to help with the food at her funeral. Bill spoke at her funeral. It was Kathy that I called after that when I was too sick to get out of bed and my kiddo needed a ride to school. It was Kathy who organized a group of people to help me move when the house I was renting, when the owner of the house I was renting wanted to move back into the house and I had to find someplace else. It was Kathy who offered me her motorcycle to practice on when, for my 40th birthday, I went and got my motorcycle license. So you're glad that I didn't really take you up on it? That's right. I was never any good at it. I haven't ridden in, I don't know, since then. When my ex-husband died from complications of his addiction, it was Kathy who organized, no, it was Bill who took my then 12-year-old son out on a vet run with him to do some grief counseling. And I still remember there were 2 hamburgers on the hoof and 1 calf born that day. He still remembers it too. Kathy made meals for me again 6 months after that when I had some surgery. She even shared her recipe for the best strata I have ever had and can somehow never quite make as good as you do. Between Kathy's attentive help and Bill's spirit-led antics, I look back at the most challenging season of my life and I know that I wouldn't have come through it in the way that I did without you. You were always there, always helping, and always encouraging. Now, I can never repay you for the impact you've had on mine and Alex's life. But please know that because of you, I am putting thought, prayer, and energy into following your example by being there for the next generation of single moms and those impacted by divorce so that they feel welcome by God into their faith communities and their churches, and they feel loved and supported. And that little boy that you dropped off at kindergarten all those years ago, last weekend he graduated from UW-Madison with 2 bachelor degrees. Everything you've done so far is significant. Every sacrifice you made an impact. Every smile, every encouraging word, and every tater tot casserole was a godsend. You are God's hands and feet to me and countless others. Thank you so much.
Vicki, I need the mic back. You want that? Yeah, thank you. I know you are, but not quite yet. Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate you sharing. I want to invite Lisa up to be able to share. And I know that this is not Lisa's favorite thing either. And so I thank you for being courageous and sharing in this. So thank you,
I had
Lisa.
to for Bill and Kathy. Good afternoon. I have notes too. My name is Lisa Heinen. I'm the office manager here at New Life. Thank you all for being here today. So many faces that I haven't seen in so long. It's awesome. Bill and Kathy, I remember meeting you first at New Life's first public service in 2003. As I got to know you over the months, I remember telling my husband, Tim, I want to work with that guy. Anyway, fast forward, I believe I was your first hire here at New Life in 2004. I also vividly remember you telling me that at that time when New Life first started, you and Kathy worked together in the church office, and you needed to hire someone to do the administrative work because you were afraid you were going to kill each other. So I like to think that I was hired for more than just keeping you from killing each other. Anyway, Bill and Kathy, you took a risk on me. You gave me a wonderful opportunity, and I just want to thank you for it. I'm still here. Both of you taught me so much about loving God and loving others. You taught and preached on loyalty, open hands, perseverance, and most of all, generosity. I learned that you can never be too generous. And Bill and Kathy, you didn't just teach and preach these things, you lived them. That was so impactful to me. We know all you gave to launch New Life, Crossroads, Journey, and Connections. It's too much for most of us to fully understand. So thank you for your sacrifice and for living what you teach. One last thing I have to share. I was given the task of keeping track of the record keeping for this event and the fundraiser. It was basically a full-time job for the last 2 months because every day I received mailings, emails, phone messages, and people that would just stop by the office from all over the city, county, and even the state, telling me how much both of you have meant to them. So they were silly stories, they were impactful stories, and half the time I would sit at my desk and just cry. They were beautiful. So your service to your community, your friends, and your family has impacted so many. I hope and pray that all the care, support, and love you gave to others is returned to you. Thank you for investing in me, my family, this church, so many other churches, and your community. Thank you.
I want to continue on and be able to share. This is a few of the old pictures when it first got started, and to be able to see that you're moving from being a large animal vet to starting a church of just 12 to even beyond to where we're at today is just absolutely amazing and a very cool and powerful story. And that's really just part of one of those chapters as well. So I'll give you an opportunity to grab your trivia sheets again, flip over on the back. Question number 7, how many times did the family get asked if they could be used as a sermon illustration? They were always asked. 15 times, 5 times, they were never asked. I don't know if I have to wait too long on this one. They were never asked. Question number 8, what live animals did Bill not have as a sermon illustration? Sorry, I forgot. What the heck is up with that? Yeah, figure it out. Just pick a letter. What in the world? No. Yeah, I forget. Sorry. How did I screw that one up? All right, God's grace. Here we go. Question number 9. How many years have Bill and Kathy been married? How many years have Bill and Kathy been married? You smarty pants. All right, here you go. Bill and Kathy have been married 46 years. Absolutely. All right, we want to continue on with those chapters. And one of the things that God laid on Bill's heart early on was a desire not only to plant a single church. when he came over early on of just praying through and wrestling through what was God going to do, he really had a heart for the Lakeshore. And his desire was really to be able to see churches begin to populate the Lakeshore for folks who maybe have given up on church but haven't given up on God. And so early on, it was part of the heartbeat of what we wanted to be able to see happen here at New Life, but along the Lakeshore. And I want to invite Jeff and Sherry Yeager up first to be able to interact with the impact that Bill and Kathy have had on their life, and specifically with Crossroads Community Church. So, Jeff.
All right. Well, my wife actually sent me up here, so I didn't forbid her from coming. She actually just preferred for me to speak, and I'm going to share a couple things for her. So thank you guys very much for allowing me to share a little bit. I'd like to act like I could see you, Bill and Kathy, but with the lights I can't anyway. So you're there somewhere. But you know, it's not a stretch for us to say that. So my name's Jeff Yeager. I'm the senior pastor of Crossroads Community Church in Sheboygan. I was the planting pastor, and a lot of that is, or a major reason why that's the case, is because of Bill and Kathy. It's not a stretch for Sherry and I to say that the reason we get to do what we do today is because of you two. It's because of the impact you had on our lives. And you know, it's not also a stretch for us to say that we're all gathered here today for this couple. We came for them. But if I'm going to be really honest with you, we did everything we could to avoid this couple like the plague almost 20 years ago. It's a true story, because we had moved over to Sheboygan after living in South Carolina. I was working with Kohler, and I was newly saved. Both of us were. We were really excited about what God was doing in our lives. We wanted to have a place to invite our friends and to tell them about who Christ could be in their life. And we looked all over Sheboygan. We just never found the right place. And over and over and over again, I had people saying, hey, Final Life Community Church is planting a church in Plymouth. It's this Bill and Kathy McCaskill couple. You should connect with them. And I'm like, yeah, sure I should. Yep, sure I should. That went on for a number of months, and about 15 churches later in Sheboygan, we just couldn't find that place. And because I had been so disobedient to God and was unwilling to listen to God, God decided to kick me in the head. And so we went to a church in Sheboygan that day called Harbor Community Church, and there was somebody preaching that day. And his name was Bill McCaskill. You remember that? And I felt like, okay, God, I get it. I'm supposed to talk to this guy. And I went up to him afterwards and said, hey, I think I'm supposed to talk to you because I think we're supposed to sit down. And so we sat down with Bill and Kathy right at Culver's, right over across the street here, and we were hooked from that time on. And from that moment on, Sherry and I had a chance to be part of seeing New Life when it was 10, 15 of us in a living room 18 months before launch to seeing it be the church that would eventually send us out to plant a church. You know, I watched you, Bill, during that time being used by God in such a cool way. You probably don't realize this, but I was wrestling with this call to ministry and on my life and thinking about going back to South Carolina and working for my other pastor mentor. And each week we'd come and we'd hang out with you guys and watch what God was doing. And I would see God working through you and see the passion in you to go and start a church for lost people to come to know Jesus and to challenge believers to live out their faith. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I think this might be what I'm supposed to do. And I'll always remember, you know, I thought about today, like what, because I could talk forever. You guys know that. Bill knows that. But I won't. So I thought about what would be an image that I have of both Bill and Kathy that I could share with the crowd today. And the one that I would share, Bill, about you is the image of you and I sitting at McDonald's over by the movie theater. And that day was a day that I shared with you that I said, I think God's calling me to plant a church in Sheboygan. And I wasn't sure. I thought I had an idea that you'd be excited, but let's be honest, you're a smart guy. And you knew that we were leading a Bible study for New Life of Sheboygan folks in our home. And so that would mean about a year and a half into the church, you were hearing somebody say, hey, I want to take a bunch of people to go plant a church. And your reaction that day is one that I will never get out of my mind as tears started forming in your eyes and running down your cheeks. And you said, Jeff, I prayed that if God was going to send Kathy and I into church planting, that it wouldn't just be for a single church, but it would be a movement of churches on the lakeshore. That's my image of you, is a man who's a kingdom-minded leader who cared more about the kingdom of God than your own kingdom. You weren't doing the math in your mind about, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose people. 3 years in on your anniversary, on the third year of New Life, I still think it's one of the coolest stories. I tell tons of people. You guys planted Crossroads Community Church in Sheboygan. It took us 10 years to plant our Manitowoc campus. You guys taught us the way it should have been done. I also have some different images of you, Bill, but I don't know if I should share all of those today. It's a pretty famous story on our staff. Kathy, you'll remember this, but I'm going to tell it anyway, because I also have images of Bill where he's crazy and did really weird things that would be theoretically good for reaching people for Jesus, but it didn't always work like that. We were at the youth center one time, just a quick side story, and Bill somehow roped myself and another man into doing a Father's Day drama, and we dressed up like babies. This is a true story. I don't know what we were doing. I'm not good at dramas anyway, let alone this day, and so we sat on a stage at the youth center because it was a Father's Day sermon, and this was in the early days where it was under construction, and we acted like babies, and literally we're going back and forth like, my dad's greater than your dad. Oh, it was just awful, horrible. We get done. I'm thoroughly humiliated by this time, and I'm trusting my good friend and pastor and mentor is going to tie it in. I still, to this day, don't think there was any tie-in whatsoever to what he then said. Yeah, it was really bad, and it was almost like he got up and went like, "Yeah, I don't know what that was either, guys. They asked to do it." It was unreal. So we still talk about that at our staff. Somebody actually pulled the picture out of that and found it. I have no idea, and I'm in a baby's bonnet. Anyway, the image I have of you, though, Kathy, is being down in the basement half the time, working on setup, leading the setup and teardown ministry of New Life Community Church with a bunch of us. And at first glance, you look at that and you go, oh, okay, well, that's just setup and teardown ministry. Until you remember what Jesus said, that the greatest among you will be your servant. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, whoever humbles himself will be exalted. That's my image of you, is this strong servant leader who always preferred to be behind the scenes, always found a way to get it done, and was always willing to do whatever it took to reach people for Christ and to see people grow in their faith. All the time. I have this picture of you down at Plymouth High School that I can't get out of my mind, just working alongside of you and thinking, my goodness, does she ever get tired? She just keeps working no matter what. And you were there all the time. You did everything it took. And Bill could never have done what he's done apart from you doing what you did. And the other image I have of you is that Sherry would say this if she would be up here, but she would tell you, she would be very emotional saying this to you, but she wants me to thank you from the bottom of her heart because she learned from you that a pastor's wife doesn't have to lead every women's ministry. They don't have to play the piano every week and sing and lead the choir and be teaching and writing books and everything like that. That was the image Sherry had. What Sherry realized and learned from you, Kathy, as a mentor is exactly what I just said, that you can be a behind-the-scenes servant leader, supporting and partnering with your husband, and that can be who God's called you to be. And I want to thank you because my wife would never be able to do the things she's been able to do unless she leaned into who God's created her to be, and that's because of your influence on her life. You know, over the years, we've seen a whole bunch of people get saved as a result of God's work through Crossroads in Sheboygan and Manitowoc. We believe that with children's outreaches, Sunday morning ministry, that we've seen over 1,000 people come to Christ over those years, the 15 years that we've been in existence. And I share that not because anybody really focuses on numbers, but because I want you guys to realize the impact you've had has not just impacted the people in this room, it's impacted hundreds of people you'll never know this side of heaven. It's impacted staff members in this room. We have 3 of our staff members in here, not because I asked them to come, but because of the influence you've had on their life, because that's how big of a deal your ministry has been. And so I want to close with this. I thought about how I would wrap this up, and there's a verse in Hebrews 13, verse 7. that says this: remember your leaders who spoke the word of God to you. Consider the outcome of their way of life and imitate their faith. Sherry and I were talking about it. Early on, we considered the outcome of your way of life, and we decided that your faith was worth imitating. And that's because we decided that a life of impact was worth giving your life for, like you guys have. Thank you guys very much for your influence on our lives, for your influence on so many lives, and the impact you've left. We love you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jeff. And if we would have known that you're going to use that example, I do have that picture. It's not this one, but it would have been really good to be able to have that one. So I want to invite Jim Parker and Jim and Danelle to come on up. And for those of you who don't know Jim and Danelle, they are Southern immigrants from Arkansas. So I will be up here to translate for them. But Jim and Danelle are church planters in Sheboygan Falls with Journey Church, and so I'm not sure who's starting. You're going to do it all?
Yeah, I'm actually.
Oh, this is awesome that I won't
know.
have this. Oh, this will be
This
fantastic.
is like a once
Thank you.
in a lifetime.
Absolutely, Danelle. Thank you.
Whatever. Oh, and my notes just vanished. Isn't that nice? So I wouldn't be doing this if this wasn't for Bill and Kathy, because I don't come up and talk in front of people. And Jim let me go first so that he doesn't, because you know Jim. So he doesn't talk everything I wanted to say. So anyway, I want to do it, and I'm shaking really badly. So the way we met Bill and Kathy was because Miles and Heather moved down to the promised land of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And that's how we met them. And Bill and Kathy came down to tell us they wanted to meet us when they came down to Miles and Heather's one time. And so we went over there, and of course, Bill got together with Jim and started talking, and then somehow manipulated us to come up here to see the Packers stadium, and Jim was already a fan of the Packers. And then they took us to the Brett Favre Steakhouse. Well, heaven forbid. We were already, I mean, it was a done deal by that point, I think. But what I want to say is 13 years ago, we moved up here. We didn't know anybody. We knew you guys. I'm sorry. You made us part of your family. You invited us to all of your family functions, your Sunday Packer games. You made us an honorary McCaskill, us and our girls. Our family would not be the same if we had stayed in Arkansas. And I just thank you for loving us and making us part of your family. And that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Thanks for making me cry before I have to talk to these guys. But no, Danelle said exactly our heart. Boy, we were living in Arkansas till everybody had a drug problem growing up. My parents drugged me to church every time the doors were open since the day I was born. Never really connected with church as I knew it down there. And then through Miles and Heather, we met Bill and Kathy, and that all changed. I was thinking the other day that Bill and Kathy are like spiritual COVID-19. Once they breathe on you, you got it, whether you want it or not. And they did. And once you get it, you start spreading it to other people. And you can look around today. This is the tiniest segment of people who've caught spiritual COVID from Bill and Kathy. I mean, these guys have had impact beyond what you will ever know, I think. And so many good memories with you guys. I couldn't name a few if I had to, but when we first got here with Bill, I remember him. I had no idea what a sacrifice this was, working full-time as a vet, doing the church thing another full-time, and then taking me out on vet calls and riding around in the truck with him. We went to a huge farm one time, and he told me, Jim, before the day's over, we're going to get your arm up a cow's butt. I was like, all right. that sounds about like an Arkansas thing. And so the opportunity never presented itself. So the last farm of the day we're on, we're there to do hoof work. So they didn't need it either. And he said, well, we're doing it. And so he puts his glove on me, and I'm shoulder deep in this cow. And this Mexican farmhand guy walks by, and he knows we're there doing hoof work. And as he walks by, there's this guy who's not a vet with his arm all the way up. And this guy's like, gave me this look. But during those times, Bill, we had so many talks. And slowly, God began to change the person that I was into the person that I am. And you guys don't have any idea the impact you've made on people to change lives like ours. And I don't know if you know Journey, but Journey is sort of like that uncle that's in your family and everybody loves him, but nobody really wants to talk about him. That is us. And these guys have embraced us with loving arms. And their family. I didn't know, so we've been at so many of you guys' stuff. I know these guys when we came, Andy and Josh and Jenny getting to know us. I mean, Miles and Heather knew us, had to be like, who are these rednecks that are at every Thanksgiving? But you guys just brought us into your family. And Kathy, I remember a night with you guys when we were here and struggling, and we had moved from Arkansas to Saukville, Wisconsin, and then there's 6 months and things were not working out. And I think Danelle and the girls were going back to Arkansas with or without me. And one night at y'all's house, Kathy just talked us all off the ledge. And we appreciate you guys for what you've done and what you've invested in us more than I can ever say. I don't know what's going to happen with Journey down the road, but I know one thing. There is a ton of young guys and a ton of bars across Wisconsin that's catching spiritual COVID via Kathy and Bill going through Jim's mouth. I was out evangelizing last night, Bill. Multiple Manitowoc church locations. But yeah, these guys have an impact like you don't even know. We love y'all like your family. I hope you know that. And we're excited for what the future brings for you guys. I know God's got stuff that he's doing right now in your family, and I'm so glad you got a family like you've got. These guys, if you don't know their family, they've raised 2 warrior sons that I have mad respect for, and 2 powerful, loving women that are just some of the most awesome people we've ever met. And we're so grateful for the impact you're having, and you're going to keep having and keep having. I think of that stupid story of the starfish people, if you've ever heard that, walking down the beach, and some guy's throwing starfish out of millions off the beach, and somebody walks by and says, hey, you're not going to save all these starfish. And he throws one out, and he says, well, I saved that one. Well, Bill and Kathy store the beach. It looks like they've come through one of those community cleanups. The starfish are 5 left on the beach. And y'all have had such an impact, and we greatly appreciate you for it. We love you guys.
Okay. Leave it to Jim to make a COVID reference to Bill and Kathy. That's awesome. All right, last shot at trivia. We'll see if I screw this part up. Pull it out if you have a chance. When was the last time Kathy was on a dirt bike? 50 years ago, 2 weeks ago, 25 years ago, a year ago. All right. Yeah, it was last week or 2 weeks ago. We have a picture of it. If you hang out just a little bit longer after our time, you'll be able to see that picture. But she was tooling around the back 40 up in Wasaki a little bit, so very cool. What was the name of Bill and Kathy's racing yellow 1965 Triumph Spitfire? Was it Daisy, Bumblebee, Buttercup, or Lightning? What was the name of their yellow Triumph Spitfire? It was Daisy, good old Daisy. So there you go. And the final question, number 12, where is Bill and Kathy's favorite place to be these days? What is Bill and Kathy's favorite place to be these days? Of course, it's going to be in the woods up north, enjoying God's beautiful creation together. And so they're up in that Wasaki area, enjoying life up there in the peace and the quiet, as well as being able to be together. And so just a great celebration within that. So one of the last pieces that I wanted to take some time is really kind of the focus that Bill and Kathy have had over the last handful of years, and that's with another church plant with Connections Community Church. And so I want to invite Dave and Heather up. So I was just like, spouse is coming or not, talking or not, I don't know what's going on. But Dave and Heather have planted up in New Holstein, and so I want you guys to be able to have a chance to be able to share as well.
So Heather was not going to come up, but she felt like God was calling her to come up to speak. Okay, she said I could introduce you. So this is Heather. I'm Dave. We live in New Holstein. That's what it says up there.
Okay, I was going to say that I was not going to come up because I hate being in front and I hate talking. And I always introduce myself as, hi, I'm Heather, and I cry all the time. So I'm probably going to cry and I have lots of tissues, but that's okay because... Oh, see, I'm going to cry. Okay. I don't know what I was going to say. So Kathy, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to close my eyes and talk. So this morning at church, Kathy and I were talking, and I was crying, and she was just sharing with me, and it just, oh my goodness. Okay. It really helped me because for the past couple of years, I've just been fighting this battle, and Kathy's been there encouraging me and helping me, and she wasn't always like in my face. She was like in the background, and she would call and we would get together, and I knew that she was there. And I think the one thing that God's been telling me lately, sorry, is that if you're working with somebody, if you're mentoring somebody or encouraging somebody, like, don't quit on them, don't give up, even if they're dragging their feet, and even if they're being stubborn or if they're stuck in something, like, keep being there for them, keep encouraging them, keep praying for them, because God's working. And Kathy did that with me since the beginning of Connections, and I'm super thankful for her. And the other thing she told me this morning, I don't remember exactly the words, but it was basically like, she said, speaking from experience, life is short, so just do whatever God's laid on your heart. And I think like for Dave and I, like, our kids are almost out of the house. We're gonna be empty nesters and all kinds of crazy changes that I hate change, and it's really hard, but like, I just need to go for it. Like, who knows what life's gonna be like? Who knows how long we have? Who knows whatever? So instead of being afraid and sitting in my chair and not coming up here and looking like an idiot for crying all the time, like, get up and share and cry. And if people think you're crazy, who cares? Oh. Okay, anyways. Yeah, like, I don't know. I can never, kind of like Jeff was sharing for Sherry, like, when we started Connections, I had this idea of a pastor's wife, and I'm like, I can't be a pastor's wife. I can't do this, and this, and I can't stand up in front of people and talk. But it doesn't matter. Like, I have to get over myself. I have to get over my issues, and God's going to use me no matter what my issues are, and no matter how much I cry. And I don't have to stand up here and talk to all of you people, but Kathy has helped me to see that just get over yourself. Like, I didn't want to come up here because I don't want to look like an idiot, but I look like an idiot for Kathy and for Bill and for God, and really, that's all that matters. So all that to say, I don't know what the next couple years are going to hold. I'm trying to do a lot of things new now that my kids are gone and I can focus more on me and not so much on them, but not in a selfish way. But I don't know where I'm going. I'm not a good preacher or talker, obviously, but Kathy, even today, has helped me to see that just do it. Life is short. So I want to be a better pastor's wife instead of so focused on my own issues and my own problems, to just open up and be a better person for the people in our church. And whatever that looks like, I'm so thankful for Kathy and Bill, but Kathy.
So I get to be the last one, which stinks, because everybody's having some great stories. But when I first met Bill, I think actually the first time was in Florida. We had been going to Crossroads, living in Sheboygan. I was in prison, working at the prison, not in prison. That doesn't get old, I'm telling you. I use that all the time. and struggling where God wanted me, to be honest, because I had been in ministry, it was a terrible experience for me, and God had called me away from that, and to be an officer with some amazing people at Kettle Moraine and Waupun for 8 years. But where is God calling me? And through Crossroads, that you guys, Jeff had been up here, started talking about church planting, and took a huge step of faith to do an internship. And he said, you should check out Holstein. They got some stuff going on there. See what they got going on there, and hook up with them and see if this may be where God's calling you. I didn't know where Holstein was. I thought, now I look back, I might have gone through it to get to Chilton on the other side, but I didn't know. So we started meeting with this amazing small group of people on a regular basis, just to share what God's vision was for Connections. And that was even before we were Connections. That's just the early stages of it. I mean, one of the things that I think we even today, this morning, emphasize, and I hear everybody's stories this afternoon, is God's love. That's the one thing I kept hearing from Bill. We want to show God's love to people. We want to be a family as a church, and we want to show God's love. And I sensed that from him, and that was something that Heather and I were attracted to about him and Kathy, was just to show God's love and to show that we are a family and a community. And so within that, God called us to Connections and be a part of that after Bill eloquently sold us on it, and which we see that quite a bit, right? He's good at talking. He's really good. I would get involved in the community and be involved, and I'd always throw Bill's name out, right? Kind of hesitantly, because you don't know if everybody likes Bill. And to a person, they would just have funny stories. I'd go on ride-alongs, and again, Jim, there's a theme here, I think, because I'd get out. I had these yellow boots that would come up to here. First thing he would do is he'd tell the farmer, take a look at his boots, and he'd just laugh at me. And I'd just laugh. But what I recognized was the farmer could be out in the field. He could be working on the other side of the barn. He would always come and be with Bill all the time because he wanted to hear Bill. And he always wanted to hear the stories that Bill had. And people would just gravitate to him. I remember being on a soccer game with our son, who's now 19, and I was talking to an older couple that was there, grandparents, and they asked what I was here for, and I said that we were in town helping to plant a church, and I said I'm working with Bill and Kathy McCaskill, and he said, Bill McCaskill, he was a vet. I remember going to his barn church or church in the barn that you had or something like that. He could remember that, and we always, that was so for me, for a long time in the Holstein, that piece I had to get to know people was that I knew Bill McCaskill. Most of the time, that was a good thing. I never had a negative one, actually, I don't think. But funny stories, another one, we were on ride-along again, because those are the times to meet with Bill, and there was a calf that needed help birthing, and he's helping. He's got this big metal contraption that he's using to help. It looked archaic, to say the least, and he's sticking his arm back in, and he's wrapping the chain around, and he finally goes, Jim, you would like this one? He said, Dave, put the glove on, stick your arm back there. I'm a city boy. I don't work on farms. I appreciate people who do, love you to death. It's not my thing. He keeps pestering me, put your arm back there. So I got it. I didn't get to the shoulder. I got to the elbow. And he said, Bill's like, do you feel something? And I actually have to confess to you, I said yes. I did not. I didn't feel nothing. I just wanted to pull my arm out. Those are just the stories that you keep having, keep hearing with him. And Heather talking about Kathy. He would tell stories, or he'd say stuff that was funny, and you'd watch for Kathy's reaction. She'd roll her eyes usually, right? Because you go, oh no, there he goes again. Or my kids, who Paul would always ask, are you going on a ride along with Bill? Yep. Can I come? Because he knew there was going to be a funny story. Or when we have a little dog, Tucker, got a bark collar for him, and it wasn't working. So Bill come over, and he takes it, he turns it up, and he puts it on his neck. And he jolts. And he didn't realize he was on that high. My kids are on the grass laughing. They just thought, and they're just waiting. He's going to do it again, isn't he, Dad? They always had a good time. good time like that. He's always asking about how the kids are doing. Even this morning, as Heather said, Bill had texted me Friday night, I'm going to be in town. Can I teach? Or do you want me to teach? Absolutely. I'll move everything. Well, we'll do whatever it is to be able to, because folks want to hear from him and hear his heart and his vision of where God has him right now. So those experiences are fun experiences. I know we have all of those, but again, I go back to God is love, 1 John 4. They had a vision for showing God's love, and everybody that talks, as you'll hear in a second from BJ, is God's love that used Bill and Kathy to show it in all our lives, whoever that might be. So thanks again for letting us be a part.
Thank you, Dave. I do want to take a moment to invite Mike and BJ up, but Mike and BJ have passed the baton to Vicky. So Vicky is going to come back up to read a letter that BJ has written for Bill and Kathy. I might as well just do this right away. Just make sure you give me the mic back this time.
Can I have it?
I don't know.
You know, I know that most of you here have experienced small groups in your lifetime. Call it a life group, call it a D group, a discipleship group. And when you're in those groups, the bonds that you form and the understandings that you come to and the love that closeness generates can be overwhelming. And sometimes when that love tries to speak, it starts leaking out your eyes and clogging up your throat. So BJ, a member of Kathy and Bill's current D group, asked me if I would read her story. It's titled A Story from a Friend. Several years ago, Bill led our D group through an activity with the intention of bringing us closer as friends doing life together. We took an evening and answered the question, what and who from your past influenced who and what you are today? As I thought about it longer, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to share my past, but I relented and began the excruciating process of self-introspection. I had my night of sharing, and thankfully it was over, and to my surprise, most everyone else has as colorful of past as I do, LOL. So I took a sigh of relief and thank God it was over. But what I didn't know, it was just the beginning of a long, painful, dark time. This delving into my past opened up wounds so deep I felt like I was drowning under the weight of them. Hopelessness consumed me. My journal and I kept secrets for months. God and I wrestled. How could he leave me in this pit alone? It seemed cruel. If this was what fatherly love looked like, I didn't want it. It served no purpose. The next thing I thought after that was, I need help. I knew I needed help. So that day I researched 4 counselors and called each office. 1, I couldn't reach. 1 wasn't taking new clients. 1 didn't return my call, but the last one, well, she was the final straw. She asked why I was seeking help. What were my issues? I tried, but I didn't truly know what they were. No, I haven't been abused. No, I'm not the child of an alcoholic. No, I'm not an alcoholic. No, my marriage isn't in jeopardy. No, I don't have an eating disorder. I don't know what my problem is. That's why I'm calling you for help. At this point in the conversation, I was crying. And she stops and says, I don't specialize in cases like yours. What? What is my type of case? And then here it is. She says, but I will pray for you. Pray for me. Pray for me? I felt like I'm at the end of my rope and you're going to pray for me? And then she wished me luck and hung up. This is one of the reasons why I despise when people use the phrase, I'll pray for you. I share all of this so that you know my state of mind at the time. The same afternoon, I sat down and watched a TV pastor. Something resonated with me from his sermon. Ask God for the encouragement you need. It was so simple, yet it was a life-changing moment. So I stopped and muttered out loud, "Lord, just don't let go of me. Send me some encouragement. I can't do this by myself." And of course, in walks Kathy. If memory serves, she had a nudge to stop and visit me unannounced. There she was at my door. I invited her in. We sat down and she asked how I'm doing. And with that question started the waterworks. I couldn't even catch my breath. I just kept vomiting out all of the crap that was in my head. Kathy sat so calmly. She had just the right words and the perfect amount of compassion and empathy. And once I was done letting it all out, it felt like a weight had lifted. She even stayed and helped me clean my house. This is how we know it's a true story. Oh, so she even stayed and helped me clean my house. I felt God's love that day. I felt the release of a stronghold. All the things, events, hurts that I kept in the dark recesses of my mind had been released. The next day, Bill stopped by saying he was just there to talk me off the ledge. And he did. From that conversation, a recommendation to see a Christian husband and wife counseling team was suggested. It took a few months, but my husband and I went together a few times and gained so much insight, and were given realistic goals and tools with which to do them. I walked away with a better understanding of myself, my husband, my friends, my family, and my God. I'm on the other side of this now, but I wonder if God had not orchestrated this entire situation, if he had not placed Kathy and Bill in my life in those days and the days to follow, would there have been a this side to be on? It is my hope that God sees fit to put me at least in the neighborhood with them in heaven. I know he won't place me on their street because, well, you know, the colorful past and all. She loves you, BJ.
I just want to thank everyone for all the different stories that you've been able to share. I know each of you have different stories and connect in a variety of different ways and give you that space to be able to, if not share with them directly, to be able to send them notes of encouragement. And one of the things that we wrestled with at the beginning of this planning was, what role does the family have in sharing, right? And I think, I think it's a little bit unique in the sense of I'm connected with you guys, not just from relationship, but from a pastor's son's perspective as well. And I know what it feels like to see not only the blessing of what they've done, but also the sacrifice. And so my heart goes out to you guys and to the grandkids. And I so appreciate just the unity that you have. And so I wasn't sure what role they were going to have. And Jenny just looked over at me and she goes, "Can I talk?" Of course. And so Jennifer, would you please come on up? And
The boys are going to opt out, but Heather's
okay. Oh, maybe
Ryan has to come up here, though.
Ryan.
Sorry. He didn't know I was going to do this. I like to fly off the cuff a little. I don't know where I came from.
I have no idea.
Now who's obedient? Right, now who's obedient? Thanks, Ryan.
What do you want me to stand here?
Yeah, just stand there for a minute.
You're doing great, man.
Yeah,
Keep it up.
He's doing so good, yeah. You know, for us as a couple, you know, as a kid, of course, you see your parents and you think of them as parents, right? And that's awesome. And I have two of the most, well, you guys heard it, right? Two of the most great parents. It's a theme, sorry. In the world. But for us, it transitioned into partners, right? Because we went out to Sheboygan and did the internship with them. And then we were along the ride for all the church plants. But not because I was a kid and, you know, a pastor's kid, but because we actually saw the vision, right? He sold us on it too. we saw the impact, we saw the vision, we saw it all. And I have kind of that visioneering sort of dreamer sort of casting sort of thing. So I saw the picture, right? I mean, you could see the people, you could see their faces. And that impact, I wanted all in. Maybe Ryan didn't say yes right away. No, he did. You were in, yeah. But it was really cool, not just being a daughter, but a partner. And, you know, I think being the oldest, at least for much of my childhood, I felt like I needed to perform and measure up, you know. For you firstborns, maybe you get me. But it changed into not just a partnership, but a relationship with my dad for sure. And, you know, I've been able to do a couple of the sermons, which has been awesome. But to see him really see me as a person and not just his kid, you know, and that's been really cool. So we've been along with the journey along with you guys, and we've kind of seen many of your faces along the way, you know. You've touched our hearts just as much as they have touched yours.
Speak now. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to say anything, but Mom, Dad, if I can still call you that, sorry. You know, I still remember those early days, those early core groups and stuff, and being brought up Catholic, I was like, what is a core group? But just seeing the two of you and your passion for God and the way you two would connect as a couple and invite God into your relationship and then your family and then your stupid son-in-law. I just knew I wanted to be a part of that. And I know Jenny always asked me, are you sure? You sure you want to do this church planning thing? Are you sure you want to come along? It's like, no, I'm not coming along. I want to. I want to be involved, and I want to be right on the coattails of Bill and Kathy and just stick around with them as much as I can, as long as I can. So I appreciate everything that you've done for us as a married couple and my grandkids and stuff, and just thank you so much. And I think Jenny's more of the Bill in the family, and I'm more of the Kathy, like behind the scenes. So I'm not the whole Irish thing, the Christmas tree. I would not do that. But like you, Kathy, sometimes you gotta bring in Bill a little bit down, you know, pull on the strings a little bit. Yeah. But that's why we love these guys, right? So thank you so much for everything. I love you too. And happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mom.
All right, Miss Heather.
Miles actually wanted to be the one to talk. I felt your connection. No? Okay. Yeah. Kind of totally. This is way out of Miles's comfort zone. I don't even know where to start. As kids talking about believing and following, man, we followed Dad into some pretty sketchy situations. And Mom was always the voice of reason that we could hear in the background. But yeah, like on the top of those ski hills, Bill, that's a black diamond. It's fine, they'll be fine. And us four little kids, I don't think Andrew and I even had poles. You had a busted arm probably, but we would follow you and we would hear Mom, but she would follow along just to probably make sure we all didn't die. But there were so many circumstances and situations that we watched and followed and trusted, and I think you have watched your four children sort of try to navigate through life and coming full circle now, being a mom and a wife and a daughter and a teacher, and just trying to create a sense of who am I now as we looked at our parents in this role. and wondered, like, wow, like we always say, man, I remember Dad's 40th birthday party. Well, we're kind of there right now, and it's kind of scary. But all in all, we want to raise our children the best we can and plant seeds so that when they go out into the world, they have this foundation of, this is who we have taught you to be, because this is who God wants us to be. I think that's all looked different for us. I think we all had our own struggles, and you guys have been patient listeners. You have been people to push us out of our comfort zone. Being in the background, watching these decisions that you have made that have impacted us, the sacrifices that you have made, I look back to now, and I just received, I'm thinking, you know, even now, like, we're all on a spiritual journey all the time. I was reading Aaron's sort of email about what it is to believe and what it looks like to follow. And looking back at your story and looking through the struggles that I've had to stop, well, continued to believe, but put that into action and follow. The sacrifices that you guys have made is what allows us to do that as your children, to see that sacrifice, to see your ability to connect and adventure in this moment is what I pray that I could be from my own children. And that came from you. So all the sacrifices that you were, you know, we gave up family time. Looking back, that was an investment in seeing you follow. Everyone says, like, oh, that's your dad, your mom, they're wonderful people. I see this, your mom and you, I see your dad and you. We all are not so blessed to have such wonderful God-following parents, and I, hands down, thank you for the sacrifices, the following that you have done that we can see, because that says more than just teaching us how to believe. And as a mom, I pray that my kids see that as well, and they see that in you. So we love you, and you didn't scar us too bad with us following you.
I'll take a couple seconds to clear up the scarring thing. There are some of us that are completely still scarred with things that, adventures we will call them, that parents led on. I wasn't going to say anything. Listening to people I don't even know, to see faces I don't even recognize, to show up for these people, brings home, when you look back at the being raised. Everybody in here is going to say they had tough times with their parents. They're going to have disagreements with their parents. There's going to be those fights your parents you watched. There's going to be those trying times. I don't remember ever seeing my parents argue. I don't ever remember seeing them fight. Through times that were very trying. To say that growing up with my parents was easy as a child, and not always was. A lot of times there's families that are afraid, if there's kids that are afraid when mom says, you wait till your dad gets home. My mom would have already taken care of that business well before dad ever needed to get home. She's the crazy Irish woman, has a 2-0 record. She has successfully fought a police officer and a United States Marine. And she has won both of those. And to this date, the United States Marine still says she was the one who hit him the hardest out of anybody, and he's been hit a lot. He's been hit a lot. But when it comes, Dad, I'll speak to you first on things. The way you've led people that you've met so far down in life. There's people here that you've impacted 10 years ago. There's people you've impacted 15 years ago. I'm 40. I can honestly say I stand here as a man because of how you, as others have said, just
were present. You were there. You didn't need to be explained how to be a father by you. You could stand back and watch. With that being said, there's several times I should have probably died due to things that you've talked me into. My dad built me a bike jump one day because every kid wanted a bike ramp, and most parents would start with something small. My dad had us coming down a hill from behind the house up by the horse barn to basically running into a brick wall. And I'll never forget the first time we went off of it. As I'm rolling around in the dirt crying, you're already getting the saw to knock her down a couple feet after I almost died. The side of you that I carry with me, when Dave, you said it best with when you hear the name Bill McCaskill. People resonate with Bill McCaskill. If you had been using my name or Andrew's name in the Holstein when you're describing people, you might have gotten a different response from people. Bob Devins, you can probably speak to that. But I've carried into, from what he does in his ministry with people that he meets, the character traits he's instilled in me. I'm in law enforcement. I've been a police officer for 12 years now. The ability to meet people where they're at. I'm pretty sure everybody in here has had Bill McCaskill meet you where you're at that time. It may not be something he intentionally did. It may not be something he knew he did. But there was always that ability where he could just meet you where you're at. There was no judgment. There was no criticism. There's just, everybody knows the feeling. You can't describe the feeling when you're on Bill. I'm going to leave you alone now. To the Irish woman. If you want to talk about sacrifice, a woman raising 4 crazy kids, my dad says best now, he goes, I raised them, I do not have to explain them. But the sacrifices the woman made, well, he chased his dreams, and she followed along with it without quivering, without taking a moment of doubt. Again, Heather speaks fairly highly, of some of the sketchy situations Dad put us into. I think, surprisingly, from a mother's aspect of things, I think I've learned more, an equal amount of how to be a dad, how to be a man from you. I learned to duck when you swing. I don't know how to put into I don't know how to put into words this. I mean, we all had our difficult times. There's a lot of things I should apologize for, but that's at a different time. The unfortunate thing with the elephant in the room is clearly the ALS that's going through right now. It's still a struggle for myself and a lot of people in here, I'm sure. But they said it best when this whole thing happened. They said, we're not going to make it our life. They still, you included, are willing to put aside that to still meet people where they're at. You could easily sit on the pity train and drive your thing around and just do your thing, but you still will put other people above that. I don't know anybody else that does that. I don't know that I've seen anybody else do that. To describe both of them in closing, everybody has their definition, and they've shared what they call them. I always said they're two of the most selfless people that will give you roots to keep you grounded, but will give you wings to do whatever you want to do. That's those two. Trust the wings that Dad built. And don't trust the wings that Dad built. But that's it, so I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you stepping into that and sharing from your perspectives. So I'm going to go off program just a little bit. If you want to win a prize, they're up here. Sorry. Let's just get to, what I want to do is I want to invite Bill and Kathy to come up first. And to give them a moment to be able to do this. You can see here, this is their family picture that they took about two weeks ago. Watch out for my shins too, so But you're gonna back up, heads up, Bill, your toes. Harder, faster next time, harder and faster next time. So I guess I wanted to be able to give you space before we share any more, is that if there's anything that the two of you wanted to be able to share before we are able to encourage and love on you guys just a little bit more. And so I will put you guys on the spot in that context, if that is. I thought you were volunteering. I thought there was a hand raised. Anyone else see a hand raised? I mean, I think.
I thought so. No, it's, I mean, what a remarkable evening. We are just blown away by the people that came. And I mean, our minds over this last few months, we've just been kind of thinking of all the people that have moved through our lives, you know, way back to Shawano. And it's just it's a God thing. And I guess for me, I consider it a real privilege at this point to just be a caregiver for Kathy. And I had a little time with God back some months, and kind of crybabying a little bit about, well, I should be leading people and building pyramids and all the things that I'm kind of wired for. And God says, Bill, the ministry I have for you now is to learn how to wash feet. Because you've never done that very well. and it's been a privilege. I told Kathy, if you were like 300 pounds and a lady I didn't get along with very well, this would be really terrible. But thankfully, she's a tiny Irish woman that is my very best friend. So we love spending time together, and we love you all. Absolutely. And in all the church planting stuff, I get pats on the back about, oh, what a step of faith and all this. I'm a risk taker. That's just the air I breathe. So all this has just been fun for me. For Kathy, it has been a major faith event, and it's shaped us both.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And I do think I don't mean to steal your thunder. I don't know if you do want to share anything, Kathy, or not, so I'll give you a moment. But one of the things that I felt as though that Kathy and I were always connected on is because we're both very much like Martha's. We're always doing, and we're always having to clean up his messes when we were on staff together. So even like that, it's like, Bill, you can't say that. It's just like, how many times do we have to be able to go through that? It's just that whole idea of doing, going, working behind the scenes, and just kind of continuing to walk behind Bill and do that. But yet, it was out of the sacrifice and the love that you had within your marriage. And then the truth of, whereas we would joke around too, of just like the Holy Spirit with the skirt on, is just like, yeah. And then there was times where she did have to clock him upside the head and say, oh, hold on, time out. We really need to look at this. And the courage and the availability within that, Kathy, is just so awesome. So thank you.
Bill is turning into being quite the caregiver. And once I got him beyond the fact I wasn't a Holstein cow, that he had to be more gentle. He was helping me one day put my socks on or something. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I said, can you help me with this sock? Grabbed my leg, flipped me back, put the sock on, and I said, okay, let's review this. We can be just a little bit more gentler, and probably overshare. But the first time he helped me into the vehicle, we had the truck, and it was starting to get difficult to get in. He was helping me to get up onto the seat, and I sort of felt like I had just come from a proctologist or something.
Use the flat of the hand. Don't go like that.
Gentle, please. So every day is a learning curve, and we just kind of go with it. It sucks, I wished it was different. But with seeing all of you people and knowing that you're here for us is overwhelming. The love, the generosity has been amazing. We love you all, and we're just grateful God put you all in our life at some point in time during this. So thank you.
Just one more thing. As I shared this morning at Connections, in all your hard times, you know, people are like, oh, how can God do that to you? You know, allow this to happen. You guys deserve better and all that. You know what? God doesn't shelter his children from the human experience. He didn't his own son. And so theologically, I just, that's not a road to go down. But everything that God allows in our lives by his will is an expression of his love, Warren Wiersbe would say. And we know that even in this, there's something he's doing, there's something he's going to be doing. There's an aspect of this that's going to be something that'll bring him glory. And that's all that matters to us. It's hard, but being a tremendous caregiver like myself, I mean...
So have you thought about starting to write the book on ALS care? I think it could be your new ministry.
Yeah,
I think with pictures.
Yeah, I'll be sought after far and wide. Every time I go down to our ALS, our precious little ALS team down at Freighter, they're wonderful. I always take a photo of the next contraption that I have made for her, and they're just like, wow, you sure have good attitudes, or, you know, here she is doing a wheelie on the, yeah.
Absolutely.
Just get her to wear a helmet. Yep.
Right. That's awesome. Well, it was my desire, and it was our desire in prayers that we could bless you in just a small way. And when we even stepped out in all of this, we didn't know what God was going to do. What my heart's cry was, God, could you, in a small way, show your generosity, show your graciousness back to Bill and Kathy in a way that is also an appreciation and a thanks. And so when we started this, we didn't know what was going to happen. We did everything we could to try and get the word out to as many different people as we could. And one of those connects was through Chuck and Trina Van Horn. Where they stepped up, and as Tom already mentioned, AJ Vans, of being able to donate the van lease-free for as long as you need. And that was something that we knew we wanted as a part of the plan. We knew we wanted to get the vehicle that was going to be able to help you guys in that. And so just a huge shout out to the Van Horn group, as well as absolutely... AJ Vans up in Manitowoc, Two Rivers area, has also worked with you guys, and I just love the fact that they're going to be able to continue to adjust the van as needed as those needs come up. And I also, if you haven't heard the story, you got to hear the story. The first time she takes the van out all by herself, you're like, hey, you know what? They're in New Holstein. They could find some country roads or whatnot. No, she goes to Appleton. To drive for the first time. So I give you props for just going after it in that way. But one of our heart's pieces is that we also don't know what to expect, right? We don't know what may come, but we also wanted to be very clear that we wanted to also give you the opportunity to live as much life as you possibly can. So if that meant that you were able to buy certain things or go on different vacations or have the different things that you needed, that was our prayer and our desire to do that. And so as of right now, there's over 107 different people or groups that have donated. And we so far have been able to donate $71,725. So what I want to do is I want to invite the family to come on up. Exactly. It's all about timing, Josh. All of them, yep. Grandkids, if they're still in here. Come on in, you guys. Come all the way in. Come all the way in. We don't know what God's going to do with all the opportunity that you have left, and we understand that. And not only the time that you guys are going to be able to have together as a family, but I know that God is going to continue to put people in your lives in so many different ways that you're going to be able to encourage and extend grace. And what I want us to be able to do is that if you guys would be willing to stand with me. And if you're comfortable or not, there's a practice of belief of being able to just extend a hand of prayer. And I want to just encourage you, if you feel comfortable, to extend a hand of prayer out to Bill and Kathy and their family. And quietly within your own mind and within your own heart, extend a prayer that you may feel as though that God is laying on your heart. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we know that it is your grace and your grace alone that gives us the opportunity to experience this kind of love. Lord, I thank you for your grace. I thank you for the love that you have given both Bill and Kathy. Lord, I thank you for the extension of what that means to their children and to their grandchildren. Lord, I thank you for what that means in the way that Bill practiced the veterinarian sciences, where Kathy stepped into all the different relationships. Lord, I thank you for the impact, the kingdom work that you have done. Through New Life, through Crossroads, Sheboygan, Manitowoc, through Journey, through Connections. Lord, even with dairy doctors and the opportunity that he had to work with the local farmers and all the different conversations that were able to be had, Lord, we give you praise and we celebrate the ways that you work. And Heavenly Father, I just ask right now that you would just continue to pour your blessings down upon them. Lord, I pray that you continue to open those doors and whatever conversations they may be, from grandchildren to the neighbors to strangers. But Lord, we do look forward to celebrating, to continuing to celebrate all that you have, Lord. And we thank you for the blessing of friendship. We thank you for the blessing of your kingdom. We ask for your care. We ask for your guide. Lord, we look forward to many more stories. You're a good, good Father, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. Someone alluded to it. Sorry, Heather, someone alluded to it. I forget. It's been a long day. But it's also Kathy's birthday today. And so we want to take the opportunity to sing happy birthday. So Butch, would you mute my mic and let's sing happy birthday? Nice job. So I want to encourage you in a couple of different ways. We have lots of cake. Please take 2, maybe 3 pieces of cake. But please take some time, enjoy it. If you want to spread out and bring it in here, that's fine. But I do want to encourage you, just as a moment of care for Kathy. Right now, because of where she's at physically, the doctors have encouraged her not to get the vaccine. And so we really want to do the best that we can. I know this is hard, is try and practice safer distancing with her. And so if you do want to greet her or whatnot, just please respect that reality. And I do encourage you the best that you can to enjoy the remaining time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for the celebration. You guys have an awesome day. Thank you.
Now, as you are or as you want to be, are you ready? Are you ready? Come now, tired, broken, scared, or just in need. Ready or not, it's alright, take your time, if nothing else, just come. Bring him praise for what he's gonna do next. Are you ready?